Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
How about the baseball team? More importantly, how about the guy who will toe the rubber for the Arizona Diamondbacks tonight? Because it will be the season debut. It will be the Diamondbacks debut for their $210 million man. In an offseason that saw Christian Walker leave, in an offseason that saw Jock Peterson leave, the Diamondbacks made one of the biggest splashes of the offseason by bringing Corbin Burnes into the fold, by bringing the top available starter to their rotation. And tonight is the first of what will hopefully be many Corbin Burnes starts this season for a team that is eager to get on with things in the National League West. And over the course of 162 games of a baseball season, I think sometimes it's hard to get excited for games, right? We're going to get to May, June, July. We're going to get into the dog days of summer, and it's just going to be another day with another baseball game, right? It's hard to get excited for these games if there's not some extra pomp and circumstance to them. Tonight's game, Game 5 of the season for the Diamondbacks, has that little extra. And that little extra is Corbin Burnes making his Diamondbacks debut. All of their eggs this offseason were put into this basket. They didn't bring back Christian Walker. They didn't bring back Jock Peterson. They wanted to play the run prevention game over the run creation game. They openly said to all of us their offense was not going to be as prolific as it was last year. Now, 4 games in, the stats are showing us a little bit of a different story, but they warned us all winter. We're losing some very key pieces. Our offense is not going to lead the majors in runs per game. That's not who we are anymore. That's not who we're going to be. Don't expect that going into the year. But what you can expect is some really good starting pitching. What you can expect is a couple of Cy Young candidates leading the charge for the front end of this rotation. We saw one of those 2 candidates have a bit of a rough opening on opening night against the Cubs. And now tonight, we get to see the other guy. The guy that the Diamondbacks put all of their money behind. That this is the guy that is the missing piece for this team after missing the playoffs a year ago. It was a bold bet. It was a bet that none of us thought this team was going to make. Corbin Burnes wasn't on any of our radars for the Diamondbacks ahead of the 2025 season. And yet here we are. Corbin Burnes is going to make his Diamondbacks debut tonight. And not only is he going to make his Diamondbacks debut tonight, he's going to do so on the road. He's going to do so away from the confines of Chase Field. And oh, by the way, he's going to do so against the New York Yankees in one of the biggest sports markets on the planet, against a team that is the talk of all of baseball. We'll get into the Yankees in hour number 2 of the program and what to expect in this series. But you don't draw a quieter opening to your Diamondbacks career than this one. I mean, this is as loud as it gets. This is the New York Yankees, the defending American League champions, a team that has one of the best hitters in all of baseball in Aaron Judge, and Corbin Burnes is going to make his season debut, his Diamondbacks debut on the road against this team, against that talent. You just can clearly see the trust. Now, I don't know if this was by design. I think in an ideal world, Corbin Burnes would have started that opening series, but because of how regimented Corbin Burnes is, how much he is a creature of his routine, it's set up this way for him to start the first game of this 6-game road trip that the Diamondbacks are going to be on. But I'll tell you what, out of anybody in this pitching staff, Corbin Burnes is the guy I trust the most to lead his troops into battle against the New York Yankees on the road tonight. So whether or not it was by design, and my guess is it wasn't. My guess is ideally Corbin Burnes would have piggybacked right after Zach Gallen in the second game of that Cubs series. So while not probably the ideal setup, works out pretty well for the Diamondbacks tonight to have Corbin Burnes on the mound. works out pretty well for us to get our first glimpse into what Corbin Burnes is going to offer, at least over the next 2 seasons for this team. And it is a tough test right out of the gates. And if Corbin Burnes is as advertised, if Corbin Burnes is everything that I have said to all of you he is, because I don't know how many of you watched Brewers baseball. I don't know how many of you were keeping tabs on Corbin Burnes in Baltimore. You can look at the stats on the back of his baseball card, and you can see that he's a pretty darn good pitcher. But until you see it with your own 2 eyes, and spring training doesn't really count. So this is your first chance, potentially, your first glimpse at the ace of this team. The guy that could be here after Zach Allen potentially leaves this offseason. He could take over that mantle as opening day starter. He could take over that mantle of the leader of the rotation. Tonight is the first glimpse of that. So when we get to May, when we get to June, when we get to July, and it's 110 out, and it's a random Wednesday or Tuesday, and the Diamondbacks are playing some afternoon baseball, you may want to fast forward till September and October when they're in a postseason race or playing in the playoffs, because 162 games is long. It can be somewhat of a drag at times. Remember games like this. Remember those games that give you a little extra to get excited about, because we don't have many of them. Baseball is one of those sports that you have to be in it for the long haul. Not every game is going to be pretty. Not every game is going to have a big, huge storyline for you to pay attention to. Tonight does. It is best on best. It is, through the first week of the season, the best offense in baseball, their new torpedo bats and all, against the best that the Diamondbacks have to offer in terms of starting pitching. Best on best matchups don't happen very often. And so I welcome what tonight's game is going to bring. I welcome the fact that Corbin Burnes didn't start in that first series. And I welcome the fact that Corbin Burnes is going to stand on that mound in the bottom of the first inning in front of a loud crowd there in the Bronx at Yankee Stadium, and in that first inning go toe-to-toe with Aaron Judge. It doesn't get any better than that, folks. Best on best. And you know what? Your best has a really good chance tonight to beat their best. That's what you live for in sports. You live for your best going up against another team's best, and you feeling like you have a really good shot. And the Arizona Diamondbacks have a really good shot tonight. So if you can tell, it's the open to our show, not the Suns road trip, not the NFL draft being just a couple weeks away. It is the Diamondbacks debut of Corbin Burnes. And I can't remember a pitcher on the Diamondbacks, maybe when they signed Zach Greinke to that huge contract, the last time that there was this much excitement and this much buzz for a pitcher to make his Diamondbacks debut. Doesn't get any better than this. So very much looking forward to this. And you know what? I love that it's against the New York Yankees. Because if it was against the Washington Nationals, if it was maybe in this series against the Cubs, I don't know if that's a true litmus test of what Corbin Burnes is going to be able to bring to this team. But you know what? If this Diamondback squad is going to do what we think it can do, if this Diamondback squad's going to be in it in September, they're going to be in it in October, they're going to go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers, the Phillies. I don't know if we can say the Braves after their rough start to the season, but we'll throw them in there. If you're going to go best on best in the postseason, you got to have the guys that are going to pitch those games, and you're going to feel like you have a really good chance to win. I want to know early on in this season what Corbin Burnes has to offer. I want to know early on in this season what Merrill Kelly and Zach Allen are bringing to the table. One of the talking points all spring, how good is this Diamondbacks rotation? Is this Diamondbacks rotation one of the best in baseball? Is it the best in baseball? Is it better than the Dodgers rotation? Don't take it from me who said that they're close. We played you a bunch of cuts all throughout the spring of how other people who know this game very well, Jeff Passan, Eduardo Perez, saying that the Diamondbacks and Dodgers rotation are really, really close, if not the Diamondbacks having a better rotation. Now the Diamondbacks have a chance tonight, at least one of 162, to put their money where their mouth is. Corbin Burnes has a chance to put his money where his mouth is, to set a fantastic first impression. Can you imagine the feeling that you're going to have later tonight, that we're going to have on this show tomorrow, if we get to talk about Corbin Burnes going out there and dominating the New York Yankees tonight? You know how much fun that's going to be tomorrow? Me being an East Coast guy would just love to pile on the Yankees tomorrow. Would love it. Nothing would be better than to be able to do that tonight. So this series gets underway, and I'll tell you, it doesn't get any better than this. And it's early in the season or it's in the playoffs where you get these matchups. Throughout the year, you have injuries. You have the way guys' spots come up in the rotation, so they miss a certain team. It's rare for you to get best on best. And tonight, you get the best in the New York Yankees against the best that the Diamondbacks have to offer in Corbin Burnes. 4:05, and you want to know how important this game is? TBS, nationally televised game, picked it up. They wanted this game. Before the season started, this was one of the games that was selected by a national audience. Why? The Diamondbacks are a really fun team to pay attention to, and they have Corbin Burnes, and the Yankees are the New York Yankees. A 2001 World Series rematch here in the early stages of the season.